We're going to run that open coming up here in a second. You'll notice one thing has changed here in the last couple moments as we have watched both of those.
Always watching, always tracking. WTVA 9 News begins with the Severe Weather Authority.
Okay, Chief Meteorologist Matt Loppon here alongside our meteorologist John DeLusick and Alan Matthew. WTVA 9 News team continuing to gather information on tornadoes that have touched down. The latest at this moment is this. The 2 tornado warnings that we had in effect expired about 34 seconds ago at the top of the hour. Does that mean our tornado threat is done? No. There's still a few thunderstorms we're extremely concerned about. But at this point, we can exclude a few folks from warnings, and that is if you live north and west of the Natchez Trace Parkway, it's highly unlikely any of this is going to produce anything severe going forward. So you are done. But where we are not done is where these storms in some cases remain strong and where that tornado possibility exists even though tornado warnings are not in effect. Case in point, when we come down here to Choctaw County, we're looking here close to Ackerman. Latest update on this from the National Weather Service in Jackson. In our discussion with them, Choctaw County, tornado possible, what they put in this. Well, you're saying, well, this is a severe thunderstorm warning. Why not a tornado warning? Well, the confidence in this producing a tornado is not 100%. And so as a result, sometimes the National Weather Service will put a severe thunderstorm warning and then upgrade that to a tornado warning. That's the reason why you have to be prepared, not just for the red boxes, but when these yellow ones pop on as well. Looking at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, we do show strong rotation on this thunderstorm there, south and east of the Ackerman area, and that is tracking towards Sturgis and Craig Springs. Now, that is not perfectly aligned with where we would expect it to be down at the surface, and so that's the reason we have to watch this, whether or not it gets all the way down there. You'll typically see the precipitation wrap around it when it is producing a tornado. At this instant, though, that is not the case. And where we see some of these speckles that would relate back to tornado debris, they're a little displaced from where we would expect the bright returns that we're not seeing at this moment. Let's track this forward, and we continue to look at this not just for its potential for rotation, but also its potential for large hail. So we'll track the rotation part of this first. And we'll track that to where eventually it could possibly clip the south side there of Starkville, Fulcher 1 minute, 6 minutes into Sturgis, Butte Community in 9 minutes, 14 minutes in Craig Springs, 23 minutes into Starkville. This is a rotation, strong rotation, yet to be proved to be a tornado, but one we need to be thinking ahead and prepping for nonetheless. And so we mentioned the tornado safety rules for all those moms and dads out there that may need to nudge the kids just a little bit. Hopefully we've already done that before this. This was that original rotating storm that's moving towards Starkville. We'll touch on that more here in a minute. It is weaker, but this one down south, if it were to make it there, that's what we're looking at. Sturdy structure, middle of the lowest floor, windowless room in the middle of that structure is where we want to go. Blankets, pillows, helmet if you have it. Keep it handy, put it on if necessary, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. We want to avoid unsafe places such as cars and trucks, meaning no junior or little greater in age than junior storm spotters. We want to avoid mobile homes being a sturdier structure than that. Large open rooms, upper floors, and rooms with windows. We need to avoid all of those. We mentioned Storm Track Doppler radar that we were looking at a storm that was ahead. This previously, the storm that is approaching Starkville did, according to looking at some debris, produce perhaps a brief touchdown was back in Montgomery County. Now, it is massively smaller and massively weaker than it was at that point. Still shows some weak signs of rotation with it, but that rotation is relatively weak. Nonetheless, it's on the west side of town, and we're watching things very closely, and we do have storm spotters in place. If this takes that next step, we will give you updates as necessary, but we feel pretty good about this first storm producing less and less active weather than it did before. The other factor with this, large hail near Sturgis. We've mentioned this multiple times on our live stream at WTVA.com/live, as well as here in our coverage prior to the newscast, and that is that it is producing probably some larger hail. I don't have as many of those darkest returns on this in the last few moments here. That is a sign that a lot of that hail is probably dropping out, and extremely heavy rainfall with that as well. So we'll track that heaviest rainfall. It will get heavy maybe before some of these times here we show, but this is the heaviest rainfall and that hail potential. And you can see Craig Springs in the next 7 minutes, Octok in the next 19 minutes, and Crawford before the bottom of the hour when that will arrive at about 6:30 or so. The other significant storm that we are watching no longer has a tornado warning on it, no longer has a warning on it. it has flirted with producing a tornado multiple times over the course of the last couple of hours. And it is about as strong and definitely as well organized. I mean, this is right there. That is all the air being sucked into it. Warm, humid air on the front side, and there's a ton of it that's being kind of sucked in like that. And then you have your cold air that's coming all the way around the backside here and wrapping around. This has to be balanced. It's a delicate dance that yields a very indelicate ending. But if everything is perfectly aligned, that's when we get a tornado. And this is just that far out of alignment, and hopefully it stays that way. Let's look at the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, and we do show that rotation, there's a couple areas there that are still pretty impressive. They are not high enough on either end here to signify tornadic rotation. Clearly, we are close to the radar in Monroe County. We have excellent view of this, but this, at this point, thankfully, is not a tornado on the ground at this moment. We'll track it eastward. We'll track that rotation. Our meteorologist, Joel Young, I'll pop this up just a second to make sure we're not seeing something else from there. He's still behind it. I'm in front of the area he's looking at, which is right there as he continues to monitor this. So he's going up along Highway 23 back on the backside of this. He has a view of it, and so he will have him, and you'll hear his audio on your television screen here as soon as something changes. But luckily at this moment, not a tornado on the ground. We are still very concerned that at some point it could produce one. And so I'm going to track this, and you'll see the Bexar community within 6 minutes, 13 minutes in the west end rotation that could, at some point in the near future, potentially produce a tornado. A wider shot here around the area does show there have been numerous other showers and thunderstorms, as we kind of alluded to off the top. But these two, well represented in the models we looked at last night, and luckily they have not produced the tornadoes, even if they have produced the rotation in a lot of the same spots. We'll have to find out about Montgomery County back there as to what exactly it's had with that. But earlier, we did have a significant touchdown of a tornado in Tippah County, and multiple touchdowns. In fact, at this point, we believe it's possible that there were multiple tornadoes that touched down there. We've had crews that have been gathering information on this as we've gone throughout the day. The time was close to around 2 to 2:30 or so where this happened, and you'll have to let me know behind the scenes here if we're going to be able to have a live shot. We do have a live shot? No, we don't? We will? Okay. We'll hopefully find out from our Aaron Wilson here in just a little bit. But we did have multiple reports of tornado touchdowns in and around the Tippah County area. One that was west of Faulkner, 2 miles. Another report, probably the same tornado on the north side of Faulkner. In either case, damage seemed limited to mainly trees. We also had a couple reports in Walnut. Our Aaron Wilson gathering information there. Folks, in particular, law enforcement asking people to stay out of town. They don't need looky-loos trying to see what's going on. The time for recovery will happen. It's just right now it's a transition period where they need to make sure they know what's going on here. And then just east of the Walnut area there, reports of some houses damaged, as well as obviously the damage to the downtown area. So we continue to monitor all these thunderstorms. I want to go back to Oktibbeha County. I'm becoming increasingly concerned, though. This is looking very well balanced, and I'm wondering if the National Weather Service might issue a tornado warning on this fairly soon, because that's getting a little more organized. There's our rotation. The winds on this remain pretty strong. Yeah, they're pretty strong right there, just along Louisville Road, south of Sturgis. We'll have to check and see 111 miles per hour pixel-to-pixel wind change. Let's look at the rainfall modes, see how that lines up. There we go. That's getting a little more organized. Is it Stan on top there? And Stan is on the, okay, our Stan Dora is on this storm. Home base for him is Oktibbeha County, and he is moving and getting in position there. I don't see a tornado on his camera picture here. John, we'll probably try to get him on the phone here in a minute if we can, so that we can hear from him. But I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I think the National Weather Service is going to issue a tornado warning on this thunderstorm here pretty soon if they continue at this pace. So Craig Springs, within the next 7 minutes, or a rotation that could potentially develop into a tornado. This is maybe possibly territory. At the very least, it's very strong winds that have been pushing out of this, so we haven't had a ton of reports. Just a moment here. I want to come down and make sure, looking at our reports with the National Weather Service, some power outages reported in Choctaw County. That looks like about all from them at this moment out of this particular thunderstorm. And that latest scan is concerning, though. Do you see that little appendage? And there's our tornado warning. Tornado warning in effect until 7 p.m. for Oktibbeha County. And let's just for a moment. Hold on. Was it a different radar site? Hold on. We need to check a couple radar sites here. I'm going to see what Jackson looks like. Was that where I was seeing it? No. Okay, GWX. There's a little appendage, a little way in which this is kind of curving around, and that's where we get concerned that maybe it could try to produce a tornado. I will say that this has been an unproductive look today when we've got it exactly like that. But that little area right there, that's where our tornado would try to form. Clearly the radar is seeing some elevated rotation as well. That's what that spinny thing is there. That's that mid-level rotation that continues to be strong. We very rarely ever sample a tornado with radar. We sample that rotation aloft that then is spinning things up stronger down closer to the surface. And so that remains our concern with this, that perhaps that is what they're going through there. As far as folks in the warning, Starkville proper is not in this tornado warning. It is in effect for locations just south of Starkville and continuing to track eastward. So we get that speed at 50 miles per hour, and I think that's still the speed on this. Actually, they've dropped it to 45 miles per hour, and let me get that speed right here, 45 miles per hour. And so there's some times on your screen. As you can see, Craig Springs in 7 minutes. Octok in 20 minutes, Sessoms in 25 minutes, and Crawford in 31 minutes. Our Stan Dora with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters is on this storm. Stan, we've had your live feed up pretty often lately. It looks like we have just dropped off in the last moment or two here, so we'll try to get that back up. What are you seeing where you're at? Stan, can you hear me? Stan? I don't know how to make your phone. Did your phone die, John? Okay, I don't know how to make it come back. Okay, so we'll hopefully hear back from him here in a moment as he continues to watch this. Most of the rainfall, by the way, moving through Starkville at this instant this is not something that we're super duper concerned about. Simply put, it's just heavy rainfall that's kind of moving through. Our camera down there in the junction does show that heavy rainfall, but still pretty good visibility. It'll be just off our screen that direction that we would want to be looking, so we're going to have to wait on that to see if we can get a better angle of that as it gets a little bit closer. So tornado warning continues for sections of Oktibbeha County. Related to that, I want to go up here to Marion County for a moment. This is the one our meteorologist Joel Young has been tracking from behind the last hour or so, showing signs of rotation that is going to be crossing I-22. It's still a supercell, still rotating, but at this point I don't have confirmation of tornado touchdown. Thankfully, we haven't had that on this one. It has been an environment that's tried, and I think, and we mentioned this a lot more on social media, we've been just a little bit out of phase to where we don't have quite enough instability or fuel to really get this to ramp back up. Okay, so this is our Stan Dora, North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. Stan, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Okay, we're going to come back. I'm going to come back to your storm here in a second. Where are you at?
I am just east of Ackerman on Highway 12.
Okay. Okay, so you're coming on the back side of this one here. Have you seen any damage as you followed behind this storm? There have been really strong winds detected for a while on rotation. Have you noticed any damage along Highway 12?
I have not noticed any damage, but I just got on it in Ackerman. I was coming south on 9 and got on Ackerman, Highway 12 in Ackerman there, so I have not seen any damage yet.
Okay. Okay, well, let us know if something changes. Do you have a viewpoint of the storm from your exact angle? I know trees a lot of times get in the way around there.
Yeah, trees are a nightmare through here, most places, but I'm hoping coming in right behind it, we may be offered a view. In fact, I'm not sure what this is we're coming up on now, right in front of us.
Okay.
I just see a dark, I don't know if it's rain, if it's clouds or what, but...
Okay, well, let us know if you get a better idea, if something changes, if you see damage or come up on it. We appreciate all your diligent work today. Thank you so much, and just be safe, all right?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
That's our Stan Dora with North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters, continuing to follow behind this storm. Luckily, at least from his angle there, no damage that he's come into yet. Clearly, the rotations we showed you a moment ago, more than 100 miles per hour, so that's a very good sign. As we look at the debris mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, we don't show any right there. Over Craig Springs Road is where we would expect to see it at this moment. And it shows this rotation just running a little ahead where our precipitation should be. See, there's the rotation. Oops. I clicked our low-res radar. Just give me a moment here to go to the high-res stuff. See, that's not aligned in exactly the right spot. This is, thankfully, these are just a little bit out of sync. And hopefully they stay that way. So let's get a longer range track, and then we're going to take a look at some of the damage that we have seen so far today. Craig Springs 2-minute, Octok in 14 minutes, Sessoms in 19 minutes, and Crawford in 25 minutes. GTR Airport in about 30 minutes as this moves eastward at about 45 miles per hour. So let me know here, Austin, are we good? Okay, we've lost it again? Okay. Let me know when if you will let me know when we get it back, and then just keep reminding me as long as it's up, about every minute or two, or at least let me know when it goes down. We'll be good. Alan, yes.
I tweeted a video through Twitter. I don't know if you can pop that up. It's near Craig Springs, though.
Okay, John, would you bring it up on 3?
Yeah, check it out. It's on it.
I want to give some folks some credit where credit is due for a moment here. We're getting, as we often do in this scenario, some pictures in. We appreciate it. Want folks to be as safe as they possibly can be. Some safe place selfies coming in, like this one here, sent in by the good folks there in Starkville. Hey, you know what? It's about 5 minutes out of your day, or maybe it's a little longer. Maybe it's 15, 20 minutes out of your day. But you want everyone, and remember the pets, to get them in there. Helmet, small windowless room. That's where we need to be, just to be safe, certainly south side of Starkville. That is the area of our greatest concern at this moment. This is just a big mass of precipitation that extends up toward around, up around West Point as well. And all the stuff on the north side here is just heavy rainfall. There's some lightning that goes along with that, but luckily nothing that is super duper strong. And I have another picture here coming in, this from the Sturgis area. And I'm not sure if this is the picture. Was this the picture you're talking about, Stephen Holman?
I actually had a video that I was trying to...
Okay. It was on Twitter?
Yeah, it's on Twitter. I retweeted it through you, Matt.
Okay. Okay, so this, but you can see in Sturgis there, that's our lowering. So it definitely still looks with the visibility like we'll have a good angle that our storm spotters can see it. Let me see if it will. I'm going to try to pull up. Give me a moment here. Here's that video. Corey Flanagan. Okay, I'll pop that back up as soon as that actually pops it up. Now, don't you love it when apps tell you they're going to do something and they do one thing else? Okay, so we're going to get back to that video here in a moment. As we mentioned, this is still maybe territory on this tornado. We have storm spotters on it. We'll come back to that here in a moment. Let's go to our Aaron Wilson, who's in Tippah County. Been assessing damage over the last few hours from a touchdown earlier on. Aaron, what are you seeing?
Matt, I'm here in Walnut, Mississippi, here in Tippah County, where a tornado, I am told, did touch down around 3 o'clock, somewhere around that. The mayor told me that she was notified around she was finishing lunch when she was notified, so she didn't specify what time that was, but she did say she is a volunteer also at the fire department, and she did say that the tornado came in behind the fire department. The fire department was not touched. However, it came down Main Street, and it did hit this building behind me. I'm going to step out so that you can see the damage behind me, but this building she did say that it was vacant. Now, it is a vacant building. However, it did have quite a bit of damage done to it. As you can see on this side of the wall, it is completely busted out, and winds are still kind of high here. And a few seconds ago, more bricks fell, and it scared me and also a few of the police officers out here. But this building is where most of the damage was done. Now, up toward the top of this road over that hill, it is blocked off, so people are not really able to get up there. But up there is an apartment building that was also hit by the tornado, and I am told that there were people occupying that building when that tornado hit that building. However, the mayor did say that this town is so blessed because no one was fatally injured or injured at all here by the tornado. There were people in that apartment complex, however, when that tornado hit, but they have no reports, according to the mayor, of anyone being injured or fatally injured here in Walnut. And so I am still trying to find out more information. Law enforcement is still here. The roads are still blocked. But like I said, this building behind me suffered the most damage from what I've seen since I've been down here. And I've been down here since around 4:30. I got here not too long after the tornado hit. So this building behind me, and it was also vacant. They had most of the damage at this building right behind me. I'm reporting live in Walnut. Erin Wilson, WTVA 9 News.
Okay, and another shot, as we mentioned, there were numerous reports of damage in and around Walnut. This was, I believe, just east of Walnut along 72. Some power lines knocked down there. Hard to say for sure that it was tornado damage, but there were a couple of rotations that went around the Walnut area. At the very least, straight line wind damage that broke off a couple of those, knocked those down. There have been reports of power disruptions in and around Tippah County as a result of this as well. And there was one report of some homes that were damaged along, I believe it was County Road or Highway 354 there, south, was it? Yes, 354? Okay, yeah, our meteorologist John DeLucia confirming that near Highway 354 on the southeast side there of Walnut, some homes that were damaged as well. So we might, hey, Liz, we might double check and have her check in southeast on Highway 354. There's some reports of some homes that we got earlier. Just make sure that we catch that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Still trying to gather information, obviously, as we go through this, but a number of reports there of some damage in Tiplerville as well, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on. At this time, we have a tornado warning that does continue for Oktibbeha County, and we'll try to get up one of the MDOT cams in Starkville on the southwest side of town, perhaps. Maybe we can get an angle on that. But the video that they were trying to show from Sturgis just a minute ago, this is that video. Corey Flanagan sending this in on Twitter. And what you can see here, certainly some rotation. Let's see if it'll pop it up a little bigger there. I mean, maybe a little rotation. Clearly a wall cloud on this. I don't have anything that's super defined, but it's always difficult in Mississippi. We always have those trees, and it blocks our viewpoint of it. But definitely an organized storm, no question about that. There's a good reason why they've issued the tornado warning on this. So appreciate all the folks that do storm spotting, that take these spotter training classes. Corey, one of those, and we definitely appreciate that. This is looking a little more balanced. We talked earlier about the balance, bigger, smaller, the way this needs to look. This is looking a little more organized at this point here on Storm Track Doppler radar. Hold on. That's very close to where it needs to line up. Let's look at that ball there, and let's check and see the debris mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. We don't have any yet, but this is getting more organized as we speak. It finally looks like it's starting to line up the way we would expect it to. It's been a little out of alignment. So where are we at for perspective? Of course, we're just east of Craig Springs that we're looking at this. Let's go to the rainfall mode. It's been probably the most reliable way to track the locations we're concerned with here. Just east of Craig Springs on the south side there of Starkville. Oktok within 8 minutes for you as it moves toward the east. We continue to monitor cameras in and around the Starkville area. One headline I want to say, as you can see, driving rainfall, stuff you don't want to mess around in. And by the way, if your student's like, I want to see it, you're not going to be able to see it. The dark plus the rain, it's in the wrong spot for you to see it if you're in Starkville at this point. Let's stay at home, let's stay in a storm shelter, and let's be safe nonetheless. And so that's part of the reason why, as we mentioned, we do continue to monitor this as a potential tornado. Doppler radar indicates rotation that could develop into a tornado very soon. Right over top of Highway 25 is where that rotation is on the southwest side, south and west there of Starkville. We cannot say that a tornado has been spotted. We have multiple chasers on it. You saw that lowering that wall cloud just a moment ago, what it probably looked like to a person near the Sturgis area. And we cannot confirm debris at this moment, but the debris and the spotting happens after the fact. And if you're waiting until that happens to take shelter, that might be a few moments too late for you. So we just have to be extremely cautious. And so we need to go to the lowest floor of a sturdy structure, go to the middle of that structure, find a windowless room. It might be a closet, it might be a bathroom. Of course, windowless bathroom toward the middle of the house. In my house, it's the pantry with the Girl Scout cookies, as we often talk about when we're out doing the school visits. It's just a way to incentivize people to go and take shelter there. And it's underneath a staircase, and it's reinforced, and that's where we want to be. Wrap up in blankets and pillows, helmet for the kiddos, and for yourself if you have one, and put it on your head as necessary. But we'll continue to monitor this as a severe thunderstorm that could produce a tornado, and it continues to intensify. And that's a significant concern here. I mean, this is pretty pronounced rotation, and it hasn't always lined up with exactly where we would expect it to. It's still just a little bit in the inflow area. This is, I mean, you might expect it maybe right there on the edge, but this is definitely close. This is trying to get much more organized just within the last few minutes here. Let's check the debris mode. I don't have it. This is the area we'd expect it. I don't have it at this moment, thankfully. Let's talk about alerts. We haven't done that for a little while here. We want to make sure you have a way to find out you're in a tornado warning. It's possible we could have more ahead. And so WTVA's weather call, the weather app, NOAA Weather Radio, Code Red. Think about this as layers of armor. If one fails, another layer protects you, another layer protects you. Just more layers you have, the more safe you will end up being. And if your signal goes out, as it often does if you're get your signal in certain ways from us, then WTVA weather app and WTVA news app, a way that you can get that live stream if it breaks down there. We are on Facebook Live. We have a lot of folks still watching us there. But our threat certainly continues to ramp up 4 locations on the south side of Starkville. Specifically, where are we looking here? Let's go road by road here for a moment as this continues to try to get a little more organized. This scan isn't quite as organized as last one. But there's Pike Road. There's St. Mark Drive. Let's put on a few more roadways here. This is south of Starkville in Oktibbeha County. This would be Mount Olive Road. Just south of that, I believe this is getting close-ish to the wildlife refuge there. So luckily not a super populated part of the viewing area. But Oktok, certainly you are in the close range where we need to make sure we are in that tornado safe place nonetheless. Heavy rainfall, lightning, that's what's all coming on this front part here. And then you have that. And so we'll monitor this very closely. Any updates from Stan or any of the other spotters? Okay. Okay. Well, good. Hopefully that's the way it stays. If we don't have anything conclusive, that's a good sign there. So let's go ahead and wind this out. And let's make sure we're not missing something. All the storms north are running out of fuel. So we have, thankfully, misplaced a few things. The strongest winds aloft are way up here. The greatest amount of fuel is way down here. There's a transition zone where things get active in between. And at this point, it has limited north of this Monroe-Lamar County line here, that intensity. You can see that those, at least on this latest batch, continue to be a little bit weaker and hopefully stay that way. Back behind this, there are storms. These are massively weaker and less impressive, but something we are still watching very closely. As we come down here to southern Oktibbeha County, that's where a tornado warning continues until 7 p.m. You can see Starkville proper there. And so a lot of those subdivisions on the south side of town, we're obviously talking just slightly south of that. So distance between pretty much campus there at Mississippi State, we're talking about 6 to 8 miles south is probably where our rotation is at this moment. That's not trying to tell you where to find it if you're one of the kids there, but just remember to be in that safe place, but also for the parents to know that the greatest potential is south, and your kids, if they are on campus, are fine. Farther north, we haven't talked much about West Point. Let's try to get one of the West Point cameras up if we could, John, here in a moment. There is a little rotation on this storm here, and it has emerged from a real mess of storms. That is the original storm that produced the tornado debris signature earlier on. That's what that is. So that is the storm. It's emerged from that cell merger, and this is still rotating as it heads more northeast. So let's look at wind on this. It's not overly impressive. Right along 45 alternate just south of West Point, there's a little rotation there. That's not enough to produce a tornado, but it is something we have to monitor, considering that has still held together. That's incredible that it emerged from that mess to still 2 independent storms. Here's what I mean. See how watch how that's back. None of the West Point cameras are up. It's okay. Well, we'll have to check to make sure that there aren't maybe some power outages there that we have to monitor. Okay, so that's West Point. We're watching that, and clearly down in Oktibbeha County, that is where we are focused. That is okay. So there are a few things about this that lead me to think that this could be strengthening. You can see there's a change in angle. Notice the edge of this has lifted just a little bit more the last couple of scans. This is continuing to be a clearer inflow area. The wind on this, let's check that and see how that is behaving. My interaction there is pretty much right at where the precipitation is, kind of rotating around. For whatever reason, when I click it, I get 6 miles per hour, which is weird and probably not accurate. Interesting. Let's look at the rainfall mode to make sure it lines up. Now it's just a little bit out in front. So just east of Octok Road is where my strongest wind rotation is. No, it's right there. So that's just a little bit ahead. So rotation, luckily we're still talking about maybes and possiblies, and we're not confirming. What this is doing at this moment. Okay, now it looks like West Point has come up. Let's go ahead and get that MDOT cam there. As you can see, winds. Okay, so we're looking northbound. So this is the strong winds coming toward the camera. As you can see there, we're going to see a few more raindrops on it here in a second. We'll shift in the wind there going on as we look live in West Point with our Mississippi Department of Transportation cameras here. Certainly, this is a strong thunderstorm. It is not officially a severe thunderstorm, but 40, 50 mile per hour winds absolutely possible out of this. It's rotating, but as we talked about a moment ago, I don't know that that rotation is tornado bound. We were looking into that. That's that wind coming back around like that. That's the reason we're starting to see that shift more toward the camera here. I want to make sure, because I could see the rain coming across here a moment ago. There we are. There's more of that northerly banding of rain. But it's not super heavy, and we're pretty much now emerging from that along 45 alternate. And there you can see now, just east of 45 alternate, that interaction on the southeast side of town there near Waverly Road is where this is at the moment. And so if we peel off the radar site, and clearly we're not convinced that this is producing a tornado at this point, but we are looking. I believe Waverly Golf Course is pretty close by here. Having a hard time picking it out there. There we are. So right there is where the golf course is, Old Waverly, and radar. And let's put on the other higher resolution radar. And so this is just northwest of that by a little bit. It is rotating. From time to time, we've had this kind of return. On a typical day, I would say that this is a step away from producing a tornado. Today, it might be just weak enough that it's not, and hopefully we hold it that way. There's our interaction, pretty much moving right toward the golf course at this time. If you live up here in West Point, inside the primary city grid, and north of Waverly Road, you're in good shape. South, obviously, we still have some concerns there. One of the other things that we're watching is what's going to happen next. And I think the National Weather Service in Jackson is going to go ahead and extend a tornado warning for Lowndes County, southern Lowndes County on this storm. The rotation continues to be strong. We continue to get reports of lowerings and of wall cloud on this. And so they're going to do the right thing, and they're going to go ahead and extend this tornado warning eastward because of that potential as it continues to move into Lowndes County. So as you can see, the one for Oktibbeha County expires at 7 p.m. I'd be guessing at least 7:30 or so for the Lowndes County one once it moves eastward. It will probably stay just slightly north of Crawford, and it will pass near 45 alternate in about 5 minutes, and 45 regular in about 15 minutes, as it's about 10 miles away. Is that the proper? Just 45? 45 regular, 45 alternate? Can we get away with saying that? Let's say regular.
45 alternate.
So that's 45 alternate. That would be 45. Regardless, it's going to pass both 45s within the next 15 minutes. Let's go to the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. Still a little out of phase. That's a good sign. We're getting these reports of rotation on it, and clearly the National Weather Service, there's the issuance of the tornado warning that we expected, in effect until 7:15 p.m. now. It does include Lowndes County. It does include locations up and into Columbus. And I know there's a lot of folks that in a moment when those tornado sirens start going off will have a little bit of a uneasiness after what we've had so far this year. This storm is working to organize. This is substantially different than the storm we had a couple of weeks ago. I think at this point it will be a struggle for this to produce a tornado. It still could. It's still organized, but it's got a funky shape. I'm not convinced of that at this point. But I think we both know that it's necessary to get to that tornado safe place if you live in Columbus, just in case. The primary threat is going to stay south of town. But we're going to have to watch this very closely because there's a couple areas along there where that rotation is ramping up. And so if your signal ends up going out, we're going to be live right here at WTVA.com/live, the WTVA News and WTVA Weather app. So if there's an issue with the signal, it breaks up, you lose power, as long as you still have that cell phone data, we're going to be live on that regardless. So let's be prepared and let's know that that is on its way in. So as that tornado siren continues to go off, we do need to be making our way to our tornado safe places. We live here in Lowndes County. Artesia, obviously, in the close term here. Crawford, this is close, probably just a little north of Crawford, maybe some Crawford addresses with some issues with this. But Columbus, we're watching this. You are on the northern edge of this. I feel fairly confident the primary tornado threat is going to stay south of the primary city grid of Columbus. Let's go to that safe place just in case. Sturdy structure, middle of the lowest floor, small windowless room, wrap up in blankets, pillows, put on a helmet to protect yourself if debris becomes an issue. Well, you won't know it's an issue until it's an issue, so put on the helmet just in case and stay put until we can give you the all clear. But I wanted to find this very clearly as Doppler radar indicated rotation that could develop into a tornado very soon. We do not have one that's been spotted. We do not have debris that's been confirmed. Those things have never happened out of this storm. There have been other storms that's happened with today, luckily not out of this storm. I say that to draw a distinction so that when you're looking at this, there's no reason to get overly anxious. Obviously, this is a storm we have to monitor very closely, but it's moving much more east than north for folks there in Lowndes County. So again, let's get you a track. I will track this into Columbus in the chance that perhaps it does take that far of a northerly track. It is possible, and certainly we're looking at downtown Columbus here when we say 22 minutes. New Hope, much more in the pathway of this in the next 27 minutes, assuming it's still moving about 45 miles per hour, and obviously the Penns community in the next 2 minutes. Rotation that could develop into a tornado if it continues at this pace. We want to avoid structures that just aren't safe. Mobile homes, large open rooms, upper floors, rooms with windows. We want to stay away from all those. We want something that has no windows in the middle of the lowest floor, cars and trucks. We don't want those, meaning we don't need any storm spotters out there trying to check and see what's going on. Speaking of what's going on, we're continuing to look into information. The folks at 4 County relaying some power outages. They're not extreme, 139 members so far. As you can see, the greatest quantity of those just west of the By-Y area. At this time, let's see how many that pops up with. That shows 68 customers out there. So luckily, nothing overly widespread at this point. And thankfully, no reports of power outages throughout Oktibbeha County, at least at this instant. Let me hit refresh on this. Let's make sure we got the latest data. We do. So that's a good sign there. So hopefully it stays that way. But there at least have been some power outages. And that's the concern. If we get more of these power outages, that's why we want to make sure that you have the weather app and you're able to get that information as necessary. Current time is 6:37 p.m. We are monitoring on WTVA 9 News, on NBC, on WLOV, on ABC WTVA, as well as MeTV and This TV, thunderstorms with the potential to possibly produce tornadoes. Our confidence level on producing strong tornadoes is not high at this point. It's not impossible, but I'm not going to sit here and say that I believe we're going to see strong tornadoes from here on out. I think if we see tornadoes, they will be brief. But that said, the winds aloft are still strong enough. There's enough difference in wind change that still, for the next hour or so, we're going to have to babysit this very, very closely. Past about 7:30 to 8 o'clock, the strongest winds aloft will start departing to the north, and these storms will lose some of their rotation potential with them. But within that time frame, and we're still within that time frame, it's not impossible that this tries to put down a tornado, so we just need to be safe as a result and be thinking ahead and preparing and treating this safely because of that potential that we are looking at here. We have had reports of damaging tornadoes today, and it's not impossible that we get those again. I always want to give a shout out to the people doing the right thing. On Safe Place Selfie here, Charlie and Lisa sitting in this one here. They're watching. They have the helmets on. Yeah, she looks about as bored as I'm sure many of you are at home right now. He's having a good time there. And it's an opportunity to talk with your kids about safety in general. A lot of times in life there's lots of fun things we want to do, and we have to instead do the safe thing, and it's important. So it's an opportunity to talk to them about preparing ahead, making a safety plan and where to go if that happens. And so I'm glad to see that they are doing that. A lot of safe place selfies have come in. We haven't shown quite as many of those as maybe we typically did. Morgantown looking towards Starkville there. Jenna sending us this picture here of some of the low-hanging stuff, and clearly this is out of that thunderstorm there. It's a wicked look to it. That heavy precipitation there, that's probably that ball that we've been tracking. This is that area, the updraft part where things are going in. I don't see anything. Typically, if you're going to see a tornado, it's not going to be quite this jagged. That tells me that we're not having a bunch of really fast-moving rotation. Typically, it's going to be a little smoother because it would be rotating pretty quickly. Hold on. And so that lowering that you're seeing there, that's about all that we've been getting out of this to this point. That's not to say it doesn't do something else, but at least to this point, thankfully, that has been the peak of what we have seen. And getting reports even at this moment that still has that lowering. That's where the air is going up into the thunderstorm, and there's certainly rotation. But this is a weird shape for a storm to try to produce a tornado. Most of the times when it looks like this, it doesn't produce. So fingers crossed that is the case. By the way, Oktibbeha County, speaking of all clears, you have been removed from this tornado warning. A severe thunderstorm warning continues, but I believe that will probably be allowed to expire as well. The storms that you have in Oktibbeha County are below severe levels at this point. Farther north, we were watching one in Clay County. This was a storm that a long time ago near Montgomery County produced a at least according to the National Weather Service, Jackson, maybe a little tornado debris aloft. Have not got reports. And in fact, we probably need to call Montgomery County just to double check on that, just to make sure that they have not had Montgomery and Choctaw counties. Typically, we would have gotten more reports at this point if there had been something significant. But at this point, we're still waiting to hear back from them. But we'll double check. But at least at this point, this is continuing to show plenty of rotation, but just isn't quite aligned right. And so hopefully that is the way this stays. Let's look at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. Well, now hold on. I mean, and clearly we have some spotters that are on this and they're not reporting back. But okay, so we're watching right in that line. That's where our interaction is at this moment. Well, I mean, now it's got a little better angle on that than it did a little bit ago. So this is going to be the next 10 minutes or so. Let's see if it's just a weird look to it. Clearly it sees, this hasn't updated yet, but it sees plenty of mid-level rotation. That's how you get this weird shape, is because of all that rotation that you have aloft in it. It's just how much of that ends up pushing down to the ground. And luckily to this point, we have not had much fall into that category. I'm just looking back here through some of our pictures that we have seen. I don't luckily see any damage pictures coming in out of this storm. But I don't think I have to tell folks in Columbus, you don't get damage pictures and then something puts down on the south side of town. And I'm not saying that that happens again, but the point is that there's not always a ton of time between, you know, to show you, hey, this is what it looks like, and then it happens. And so it's out of that abundance of caution that we advise you, that we encourage you to be in that tornado safe place in Oktibbeha County. In Lowndes County. I'm thinking Oktibbeha County because they have allowed that warning to be canceled. It will expire here in a couple minutes, as it's supposed to, on time, so as that threat continues to weaken. But this is getting a little stronger rotation just south of 789. Do we have contact with Stan, seeing where Stan is? We probably ought to touch base with him, just to make sure. I mean, I'm not getting on the wind mode a ton of strong returns to show up, but this is a little more organized here now, and the rotation's at least in the place we'd expect it at this point. So that's not exactly encouraging signs out of this. Let's look at the precip mode again. I mean, it is kind of curling around just right. National Weather Service still looking at this, still looking at a little lowering on the latest reports. You can see that mid-level rotation still there. So it's a little bit out of phase, but not much. We don't have that much longer to get this out of the air. You don't want this to happen to anybody, but obviously we don't want it to happen to us. And so for all those prayer warriors out there, this is one that's just on the edge. So let's continue to pray that the moisture just falls a little bit out of phase with this. We continue to watch the rotation on this northern one, but that is, again, I think too weak, well below levels where it could produce a tornado. Let's look north here. We have had a few other thunderstorms. This one near Belmont that is a little below severe levels at this instant there, still showing some organization, but you go to the wind mode there, and this is mainly straight line winds. I know you have the green next to the red, but the way this looks, it's that straight line winds, probably 30, 35 miles per hour out of that. It's enough to make some of those tree limbs definitely rattle around, but probably not a whole lot more than that at this instant. Our tornado watch, which has been issued for a good chunk of the area, is slowly being peeled back for the western half of the area. You can see Atala, Montgomery, Grenada, Yalobusha, and Lafayette counties have all been excluded now from this tornado watch, and we'll watch those continue to be shaved off as we go through time. Is he in position?
Stan's on the phone. I'm not sure.
Okay. Hey, Stan, where are you at?
I am on Oxcock Road, southern Tippahall County, south of Starkville.
Okay, so you still probably have a view of it. It's probably not a great view, but you still probably have a better view than if you were close up, honestly, because the way this one is. What do you see?
I'm right now not seeing much of anything, just a little bit of light rain. Haven't really seen any damage. That's basically all I'm looking for now, is trying to find if there was one on the ground, where it crossed, and if it did any damage.
Okay.
Because it basically got too far ahead of us to try to catch it.
Okay.
As far south as it was, so we just started going south on Oxcock, going to see if we can find where one may or may not have crossed the road.
Okay. Well, keep looking, and it's just the southeast of GTR Airport where we're watching it right now. Let us know if you find anything, and be safe. We'll talk to you a little later.
I appreciate it.
Okay. That's our Stan Dora with North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. The reason, by the way, why they look for damage like this is, you want to make sure that, I mean, this has not produced damage. I don't think we necessarily feel it's touched down, but you just want to make sure that people get the aid they need. And as much as we want to stay on these storms, know what they're doing, that obviously people take our preferred, not preferred, what's the word I'm looking for? They're obviously more important than chasing the storm itself. But certainly the information we get from those chasers is valuable, and we appreciate Stan. This continuing to show that rotation north of Gilmer, Wilburn Road, just south and east of West Lowndes School. This is not as organized as what we had a couple of weeks ago, but there's still an area of rotation there that we're monitoring. A couple areas along this, what we call rear flank downdraft, is where the air is coming back out of the thunderstorm, and there's a few spots here where it's trying to curl in with the inflow. This would be a kind of a weird spot for it to be, but not impossible, and the fact that it kind of curls back around there with just a couple of those pixels there is a concern. You can see certainly the radar also looking at the southern part there, and there's certainly rotation there as well. But this has been, that rotation south has been where a lot of the time here we've kind of had that wind trying to curl back around. So a couple areas there that we continue to watch for Columbus proper. Let's give you some distances here. So from the southwest part of the city grid of Columbus, we're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of about 8 to 9 miles to your south and west. That's where these rotations are continuing to move toward you. So that means that our time continues to tick down as well. I'm going to make sure we keep Columbus in the track of this, and you see that has it within the next 10 minutes. So definitely monitoring this closely. Okay, so let's look at Columbus here. This is one of our MDOT cams, downtown Columbus at this point. A lot of folks on the road. It is spring break weekend for a lot of folks out there as we get to that time of the year. Might call some folks if you know that they're driving to or from some location. Let them know, hey, tornado warning near here. One of the concerns is that it has kind of pulled this rotation farther north than it was originally going, at least one of the sections of rotation. So if you know some folks in Columbus that might be one of those folks speeding through downtown or on the highways right now, make sure they're aware that, hey, this is out there and it's generally coming your direction. I want to track this a little more east to catch New Hope. And of course, Whiteberry area in about 11 minutes, New Hope in 15 minutes, McCrary there within the next 20 minutes, and just at 19 minutes for you, rotation that could potentially develop into a tornado if the storm continues to organize. We're kind of in a critical mode here, and there are a couple of spots right there, that we are watching very closely. Wind mode, storm track Doppler radar. I'm going to go back and forth here for a moment, so give me a second here to really analyze this. I still put a preference on this north one. You could argue down here south, they're trying really hard. Neither of these is probably a tornado at this exact moment, but neither one is terribly far away. By the way, old report, Choctaw County, few power lines reported down by emergency manager there. So as we continue to gather that kind of information, that's probably obviously part of the reason why there were some power outages there. So one encouraging sign on this, and I don't want to play up the encouraging stuff too much. Clearly, we want to make sure that we're still in our safe place. But you see this weird, like green area where it's getting in here are what we call forward flank downdraft. There's more of a V here, and that V is getting deeper in. And that was something that happened with our storm up in Monroe County earlier on as it continued to whittle and erode away. So hopefully that's a sign that this one is losing a little more of its intensity. It is in an environment. This is one of the most fertile environments, and by that I mean one of the environments that's had the most time to see the instability of the fuel spike up and maintain today. So that's obviously one of our concerns there as this continues to move eastward. Okay. Okay. Just some house cleaning stuff here behind the scenes. Tracking that eastward again, we're looking at New Hope 14 minutes, 9 minutes in the Whiteberry Lake Lowndes area in about 15 minutes. Our meteorologist, Alan Matthew.
Montgomery, just a couple trees down, Matt, on Highway 413. We just confirmed that. Something we were seeing online.
Okay.
Mentioned to us.
Okay.
Couple trees,
Okay,
Matt.
couple of trees down on Highway 413. Do you have them with you?
They're in the car.
Okay, you're good.
You need me?
No. Well, I mean, yes, I would take some. We are watching this one near Columbus, so by the time you get back, we'll know for sure.
Okay, do you hear what you need?
No. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Alan, for those reports. Trees down along Highway 14, no homes damaged there. That was Montgomery County?
That was per the main director of Montgomery County.
Okay. Good. Okay, let's reset here for a moment. The current time is 6:50 p.m. I'm meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Alan Matthew, John DeLusick, the entire WTVA news team here trying to gather information behind the scenes. You'll notice these reports are coming in very sporadically. That's a good sign. When we get floods of reports, that's a bad sign. And so it's sporadic reports, a few trees down here, a few reports of damage here, the exception being up in Tippah County very early on where we had a substantial tornado touchdown in that it had a number of reports of damage, and we're still trying to assess exactly what happened there with that and how strong that damage was. But clearly there's a preference here for locations, Lowndes County and as far southeast Monroe County, where these storms are the strongest. And when you have this much storm activity right on top of one storm on top of another, that's actually, believe it or not, a good sign. That means it's all competing for the same fuel, and it's difficult for it to get everything that it needs. So now we're looking here south of Columbus. There are two areas that I'm watching. Where you see that spin there, that's one. Where you see that yellow little finger coming up there, that's the other. Wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. Both those areas have some rotation with them right now. And this one's getting a little stronger near Lime Rock Road on the south side there of Columbus. I'm going to get a track from both of these, and I'm going to include New Hope in both these tracks. So the southern of those, Whiteberry Community in 7 minutes, New Hope in 11 minutes. The northern of those, I'm going to include Columbus in this track, and then we're going to go more east than this. It might not pull directly north like this, but we're 6 minutes in the middle part of town. That means 3 minutes into the southwest part of town. This is not a tornado at the moment, but it is certainly trying to increase. Looks like there's an area of cyclonic convergent winds just southwest of Columbus. Absolutely, that's what we're looking at here. So that is that middle area. That's weather jargon for that you see there. Okay, so that is what they're watching. Clearly we have this rotation south, but that little area there where things are swirling in, we're not likely to put down a long-lived tornado, at least not at this instant, but that is rotation there now near Old Macon Road that's on the southwest side of Columbus. So if you live in Columbus, we need to be in that tornado safe place just in case. I want to go back here a couple scans, make sure. Yes, I am seeing that right, because you can see that kind of heading northward. That is our rotation there. Let's look at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar. Still continuing to organize. It's not extreme pixel-to-pixel wind change. We look at the debris mode here. We don't have any in either spot. So this is not producing a tornado now, but as we always say, this happens after the fact. We confirm this after the fact, so we can't confirm a tornado at this moment. But as we've mentioned over and over again, this is a tornado warning, and it's something we need to take seriously. Give me 10-15 minutes, and then we'll move on with our Saturday night. You'll move on with yours. We'll be continuing to monitor things here behind the scenes, but give me 10-15 minutes if you live in downtown Columbus or in Columbus proper, and then we're good. So sturdy structure, middle of the lowest floor, small windowless room, wrap up with blankets and pillows, and put on a helmet as necessary to protect your head, and stay put to there until we can give you the all clear. As you mentioned earlier, we do try to give those all clears as often as we can. Sometimes we get tied up with what's going on. Let's give some all clears here. If you live near GTR Airport, you're good to go. If you live west of West Lowndes School, you're good to go. If you live west of 45, either alternate or regular, you're good to go as well. Obviously, this is encroaching upon the city grid of Columbus, and there are two areas of circulation here. This is looking, this is 1, 2 areas right there that we're tracking, pretty much crossing the Tom Bigby River at this moment, it looks like. That's where our rotation, well, honestly, they're both just about crossing it at this moment. Let's look at the wind mode here. Hold on a second. Visual lowering, good bit bigger over the last 7-10 minutes. Okay, so spotters continuing to refer to a lowering that is increasing in size south and west of Columbus. What does that mean? Well, the lowering is with wall cloud. The wall cloud is a part of the thunderstorm that hangs below the rest of it. Let's give it a shot. That's not a good one. Let me see if I can find you a picture of a wall cloud. We'll count this. We'll call this good. So second here. So this would be an example of what they're talking about. This is not the specific one. This is be an example kind of, we see there's a little interaction there. But you get a lowering back there. This is not a good example of a wall cloud. But anyway, it's lower than the rest of the cloud, and it happens because air is being forced up very rapidly, forces the bottom down. That tells us that it's a strong updraft, and that's a step. Then it rotates, then the tornado happens. So it's a step getting closer as it enlarges and strengthens to trying to produce a tornado. So that's why we are still obviously encouraging you to be in that tornado safe place. We have to be the lowest floor of that sturdy structure. Two areas there that we're concerned. One, I mean, it almost looks like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Alan, that we've had a storm split. Am I wrong here? Look at the south now. Look at this north. Here's the north one over the city grid of Columbus, and there's the one on the south. It's almost like we had a cell split there occur.
Yeah, that's exactly.
The fact it survived the cell split is impressive. Wind mode here. One of our circulations is now on the southeast side of Columbus, over 795. The other one is just south of 795, west of Whiteberry, moving in the direction there. We'll stay just south, perhaps, of New Hope. It's not the clearest cut return. That's good. Clear cut means something bad is for sure happening. This is still maybe, possibly, and hopefully we stay that way. So I have my circulation pretty much right there. I put over your city grid there in Columbus. Right now, kind of pretty much over downtown. This is pretty close to the track of that tornado a couple weeks ago. This is different. Hopefully substantially weaker. At least it looks that way right now. Hopefully stays that way. But clearly we have some folks here that know what can happen, and that's the reason why we have to hope that they are taking this seriously and staying in that tornado safe places. This northern rotation tracks there closer to 82. The southern rotation, something we're watching as well. Our meteorologist John DeLusick, though, with a new information coming in here just in the last couple moments. We'll get John's mic up. John, what are you learning?
We got Jay in Columbus live in torrential rain right now, if you want to take it live on
Jay
3.
with the North Mississippi,
Yes.
North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. Okay, so this is our Jay Robertson with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters in Columbus right now. Obviously, he is a, this is going to sound crazy, but he's a professional driver on top of being one of our storm spotters. And so he is monitoring this very, very closely. I'm going to get a live video going on here on Facebook because for whatever reason, hold on. Tornado warning continues, Lowndes County. Okay, sorry. So while we're looking at this, while we're waiting, it looks like law enforcement certainly trying to keep folks there safe, and it looks like it has oriented my video the wrong direction. So apologize for that for those folks on Facebook Live. We don't see anything imminently obvious here on this, so I don't want to dwell too much on that while we have the potential for these to continue to strengthen. But John, watch that closely. Let me know if something changes, and we'll go from there. That southern rotation continuing to strengthen. I don't necessarily believe that 112 miles per hour that's kicking out there. I think that's just a little off. Let's check the positioning here. See, it's in that inflow again. So this is that stuff we were watching Oktibbeha County, where it was just showing these extreme wind returns and they just weren't producing. Let's track that eastward. I'm considerably more concerned with the northern one at this point. Whiteberry 3 minutes, 7 minutes, New Hope, Lake Lowndes 8 minutes, McCrary there 10 minutes, 13 minutes, Stafford. By the way, please don't take the fact that I'm more concerned with one of these or the other as an idea, oh, well, we don't need to worry about it, we don't need to be in a safe place. You need to prepare and be in the lowest level of a sturdy structure regardless, just to make sure that a human, and humans make mistakes, isn't putting too much confidence in one of these versus another, okay? We do believe, at least at this point, this is the more tricky. It's obviously through the more populated area. And luckily, this is broad enough. I don't believe that to be a tornado at this moment, thankfully. We'll look at the debris mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar. There is no debris, so that's a good sign there. So the last couple of scans, that northern one there has gotten a little bit weaker. Hopefully that continues to be the case. You can see those characteristic little hook shapes on these other storms farther north. Clearly that shows the rotation we have in the atmosphere. It's strong at this moment. Current time is now 7 p.m. I'm meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist John DeLusick and Alan Matthews. We continue to monitor severe thunderstorms, in some cases capable of producing tornadoes. We do have other thunderstorms that have formed behind this primary line. There's not a lot of fuel left for these. Am I going to say it's impossible for these to produce damaging weather? No, it's not impossible. Is it likely? No. But we'll watch it nonetheless. And as we've mentioned before, some of our tornado watches continue to be canceled out. Memphis has gone ahead and canceled all of their counties out. That's probably a good move. And Jackson's holding on just in case that next line does something a little greater. That's just their prerogative to go ahead and do that. And this watch was issued a little later, so that's why they're doing it. And then obviously our Alabama county is still more in the immediate pay attention to this zone. We do continue to have until 7:15 a tornado warning for eastern Lowndes County. We've had no indication from the National Weather Service Birmingham whether or not they plan to continue this into Pickens County. We'll continue to track it as we look at the one that has the stronger rotation, but maybe the less effective rotation. Whiteberry community now pretty close to the New Hope within about 2 minutes or so. Lake Lowndes 6 minutes, Ethelsville in 12 minutes. We have not confirmed tornado touchdown out of this, and this part of the thunderstorm has multiple times kicked out really strong winds on radar, but luckily we have not had a lot of damage reports with that. The rotation on the north part of this continues to now exit the Columbus area, moving towards Steens. We don't have those bright, toward and away pixels here. So luckily this is maybes, this is possibilities, and we have not confirmed anything beyond that. And hopefully that is the way that this continues. But certainly this has been a long-lived thunderstorm. It's showing still signs of rotation, and it's something we have to respect. And so let's just talk about for a moment here what we have. We have a tornado warning that's been issued for Lowndes County in effect until 7:15. That warning issued for Doppler radar indicated rotation that could develop into a tornado. I don't know if I'm going to say very soon at this moment, but let's just say soon, okay? Spotted? Nope. Confirmed debris? Nope. And hopefully it stays that way. But as we say over and over again, you have to prepare by getting or at least knowing where that safe place is. I would still be doing that if I live in Pickens and Lamar counties out here in Alabama. Sturdy structure, middle of the lowest floor, small windowless room, that's where you need to go. Wrap up in blankets and pillows, have a helmet ready. You're ultimately just trying to protect yourself from flying debris. Stay there until we can give you the all clear on this. And as far as all clears are concerned, we can do that, I'd say, for the city grid of Columbus, primary city grid. You can come out of that tornado safe place here. If you live east of, let me get our roads right here. If you live east of 769? Hold on. 795. If you live east of 795, we still need to be watching this very closely near the Whiteberry community there. And obviously this is moving toward New Hope at this time. There's still rotation here. And hasn't produced doesn't mean won't produce. So that's why we have to watch this very closely. John, Allen, have we had any, speaking of reports, have we had any new reports out of this storm over the course of the last little while?
I haven't seen any. I've been observing the Jays. You, Alan might. Nope.
Nope.
That's good news.
Okay, I'm not going to push it and say maybe we have. Have we checked the 2nd Street John, just to make sure that the pictures and information on that.
Which one now?
2nd Street, you know, the app.
Oh, yes.
We'll double check that just to make sure there's not something coming in there.
Yeah.
And just to, here's another, I'm going to try to pull up a video here. This is when this storm was south of the Starkville area. This is what storm chasers are up against. And by that I mean it's very difficult to see. Oops, it's going to pop that up full screen. But this is very low contrast. It's very difficult to see exactly what's going on. But you definitely have the lowering there. It's an organized thunderstorm, but now at night, spotters are just basically looking for the lights of the city and to see if there's flashes of light, whether there's lowering or not. So that's why we have to rely increasingly more when we get late in the evening like this on Doppler radar. But that tornado warning continues until 7:15. It does include New Hope and locations in far eastern and southeastern Lowndes County as it moves toward the east at about 45 miles per hour. Sometimes it's on the doorstep of New Hope, so you're going to see at times basically now. Stafford in 6 minutes as it crosses the Alabama state line. McCrary should be showing up, but I would put that in about 6 to 7 minutes as well. Update from the National Weather Service. It is more of the same, and more of the same is good in this scenario. It is possible tornado, winds that are rotating, no confirmation, and hopefully it stays that way. You can see certainly still showing that mid-level rotation on Storm Track Doppler radar. Looking at the wind mode here. I mean, any other day I would look at this and go, wow. But this storm has just struggled to produce. And that's not to say it's not doing now. Let's look at the precip modes. Go back and forth here. We're watching right there. Those 4 pixels, what I'm looking at. It's right there on the edge. I'm going to make this the grittier version of Storm Track Doppler radar, and we're going to drop the smoothing off completely. And I'm going to pull this little swing and circle. Okay, because I want to see what the exact pixels are doing here. Okay. Nope. No tornado. This is still strong winds in advance of this, thankfully, but this is probably not a tornado at this instant. Could it develop in the one? It's not impossible, but Lake Lowndes is in the path. That is the most likely location to see that. And so let's get a wider track here into Pickens County. Okay, Jay is. Do we know where he's at? Oh, okay, we're pointing down at let's see if it has his location on it. Call Jay Robertson. So we'll find out from him here in a second. Is he Facebook Live with that, or is he? Okay, okay, good deal. I'll find out from him where he's, to make sure he's in the right spot down there. I cannot reach him. I'm no shocked about that. That's always a problem. Okay. There we are. Hey, where are y'all at? Okay, so hold on. Can I put you on speaker? Is that okay? Okay, watch your language. Okay, so this is Dean. He's a meteorologist with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. Jay Robertson as well on this. We're going to get that live stream back up here in a second. And you're just northeast. You're basically in the rain corps.
Yes, we're in the core part of the storm. We're driving southeast right now, trying to just get south of the storm so we get a clear path.
Okay, where specific? You're on 82?
Yes.
Okay. Well, be safe. So you're going to go 82, and you're going to try to get back. Okay, I got the plan. Have you seen any damage in that part? There was an area of rotation that went over that area. Have you seen anything that resembles damage?
No, we have not. Not even twigs.
Not even what?
Not even twigs or leaves.
Okay, good. Fantastic. Not even twigs or leaves. Okay. If that changes, you got my number. Let me know. We'll be watching. All right?
All righty.
Okay. Be safe. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, that's Jay and Dean with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters. So we appreciate them. If you haven't heard that name a lot, that group definitely helps us out there, our spotting crew, and it makes our job massively easier, the hard work that they do on a day like today. So we appreciate them very much. We appreciate all of your spotter reports as they continue to come in as well. Safe place selfie. Give credit where credit is due, to give people credit for doing the right thing, not just going out and trying to snap pictures. The whole crew here, we are in our storm safe place outside of Smithville. Thanks for all you do. Patty, thanks for you all setting a good example for the little ones there. It's important that they know what it takes to be safe and how to be safe in this kind of scenario. 7:07 current time, our rotation now tracking into Pickens County, Alabama as it continues to move eastward. Thank you. That's a perfect place. Good work. I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Good to go. Love you too. Bye. Okay. Let's widen this out. Let's make sure there's nothing else we're missing. I will say this, that northern storm, remember this split a minute ago? That northern storm's a little more dominant, but this southern one is just eating it up. It's just eating up the moisture. And so it looks stronger, but it's just being cut off. This is working out perfectly, where these are just, they're working toward one another, and they're working against one another, and that's a really, really good sign. So I'm glad to see that. No new damage reports from Lowndes County, anything like that? Oktibbeha County? Tisch Bingo? Okay. So, okay, well, we'll get those up. When you get those, let me know, and we'll go from there. A lot of heavy rainfall farther north here. This is all just, I mean, this is the line. The hard part about forecasting nowadays is that models are so good. You know they're wrong in some way, but they're so good. Like this is a line of supercells. That one's rotating, that one's rotating, that one's rotating, that one's rotating. So is that one, so is that one. And the models had that. The projections had that. But these aren't quite strong enough to produce, even though every single one of them is rotating right now. So maybe just as a meteorologist, it's amazing how good modeling has got that it can tell us that. The difficult thing to decipher is today the day where all the components are perfectly in place. And to this point, we have been just that far out of sync, with the exception of a few storms that we had earlier on that produced some damage, especially up in Tippah County. And the newsroom continued to work on some that sounds like might be from Tisch Bingo County as well. So we're continuing to follow up on those leads. If you have damage reports, you can send them into weather.wtva.com. WTVA weather app, another way in which you can submit those photographs and pictures. And ultimately, if you don't have damage, good. Hopefully that's the way it is. On the Mississippi side, none of the storms that we have out there now are remotely severe. Honestly, very few of them even I could qualify as strong. Some of these are rotating, but there's not enough fuel when you get back here to work off of. If there's not enough fuel in Columbus, there's definitely not enough fuel back here based on what we have right now. There's a lot more shear, the ability to get the rotation going, but there's not quite as much fuel as we need. And by the way, y'all, when you two get the information and you're ready, you just let me know. Okay, so let's our meteorologist John DeLusick with a little information coming in here, and we'll see what this is. Go ahead and give me the primer on it.
Okay, this is from earlier today. This is some major damage in the Goat Island area of Pickwick Lake. This is again what has been sent to us. Our news director has given us this. I'm not sure who sent us this, but right now, do you know who sent us this?
I'm at the right spot, right? Goat Island, I believe it's kind of up.
This is from Michael Plunk.
Okay, from Michael Plunk. That is dramatic.
Okay, I don't have the picture. Where is it at?
It should be on weather. It should be on
Whoa.
number 3. Weather 3.
Whoa.
Whoa, that's what I'm saying. This is.
Whoa.
This is major, and you can see the snapped off trees. Look at that. That's
whoa.
Michael Plunk. That's the credits for that picture.
Well, and then, I mean, is that a roof on the ground there?
It looks like
right there?
It sure looks like it, don't it?
I mean,
my goodness.
Wow. Northern Tisch Bingo County?
Yeah,
Did we
Goat
tin-eyed
Island.
this? Have we tin-eyed it yet?
This was something given to us, so we've got.
Double check. Go ahead and double check it.
I'll double check.
Let's double check it. But man, that is impressive. Okay, so and usually the Twitters usually get me on. That is Goat Island up in the Pickwick Lake area. We did get reports earlier on Goat Island, and what was the other place? Steel Bridge.
Steel Bridge.
Is that another picture?
I'm going to tin-eye this one first.
Okay, we're going to double check it. If you're wondering what that is, it's a cool thing that we can check to make sure the pictures we get are real, because people sometimes do that. So we do check, believe it or not, and they're checking one of the other ones now. But man, that's some pretty significant damage from up there in Tisch Bingo County. I'm going to try to go back and look at it.
So I'm going to give it over to John.
You're talking about this one right here? Or
Okay, so they're going to get another picture here up in just a second. And so we'll tag them in here in a moment. But here's what we need to know. If you live in Lowndes County, this tornado warning, which has 2 minutes left, will be allowed to expire as anticipated. You can come out of those tornado safe places if you live in Lowndes County. We're going to give this a 1-over, and then if this hasn't strengthened more, in a moment or two after that, we're going to send you back to regularly scheduled programming. We've taken enough of your evening up with this. So let's, first off, we're going to set an overall, and go ahead and tell me, Austin, what you're going to say. No, not quite. Maybe it might be a few moments after that. Okay. So let's look back at the lines, make sure we're not missing something. This all looks relatively weak. Let's look at fuel here for a moment. It's what we call dew points. It allows us to see how much moisture is out there. It's fuel for thunderstorms. For whatever reason, that is not wanting to load in at the moment. There we are. It still have some mid-60s dew points. They're not as strong as they were earlier. We don't have the same heating we had earlier, so that's a good sign. And there's nothing else back behind this, right? This should be, this last wave here should be the end. So we look like we're in pretty good shape here. So they are pulling up that picture here in a moment. So let's revisit the last of our strong storms. Let's check the wind on them. Still a little bit out of phase. That's a good sign there. We are not leaning towards a tornado warning at this time. We are watching 2 areas, however. Those are our areas that we're looking at. Farther north, let's make sure there's nothing in Vernon. There's a little bit of rotation. It's still fairly broad. You don't have anything that's nearly strong enough to be of that level at this moment. Let's just take a nice wide shot here and make sure there's nothing else we're missing. Nope, I think we're good at this moment. So that looks pretty good there. So do y'all have the picture up yet?
We're trying to get the picture of the other one, but this picture that earlier from Goat Island, it is confirmed. The EMA director says also to mention there are 20 homes damaged in that area and no injuries as of right now that we know of. Power lines and trees down. So that's a major hit.
That is significant.
Yeah, I know.
What? Okay, so
I think we're getting
we're going to go back and look at this for just a moment here.
With this other picture.
Now that report came in from the first round, right?
The name is Michael Babb.
Okay. All right, I got another picture
hold
too.
on. Would that have been like the 5 o'clock one? What was the time?
Earlier, that was the one that was earlier. That was the early one.
There wasn't, but it did. Nothing even crossed in northern Tisch County. Well, okay, we can hash this out a little later.
Sure.
Try to figure this out. But that's the first round. I mean, I didn't even show. Is Goat Island on the Tennessee side? No, it's got to be Tisch County.
North of Iuka.
North of Iuka.
Okay, no, then it's the second round. Okay, we'll look more at this here in a minute. But that's some pretty impressive stuff. Do you have the picture up?
Got another picture up from Michael Babb. The credit for this picture.
Oh wow!
This is again from that same area.
Man, those are some pretty good trees. You know, pulled over, some damage. I mean, that's at the very least some impressive straight line wind damage. I haven't seen probably enough pictures. Have we only got those 2 pictures so far? Mm-hmm. Okay. Can we put the other one back up? Is that something we can do?
Sure. Let me.
I'll let you take that down.
Okay.
We'll worry about that off the air here in a moment. We'll get that ready for later broadcasts here. I'm going to check one more time. Okay, the other one's up. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. It's all coming this one direction there. It's hard to say straight line winds or tornado at this point, so we'll worry about that here in a minute. Lowndes County EMA reporting a tree and power lines down at 7th Street and 20th Avenue. And it looks like a tree down on Blue Cut in Columbus. So there have been at least some trees knocked down that just as easily could have been straight line winds as something else. So that's what we are looking at here on this. So that was that storm that moved through there. Let's backtrack that just for a moment. The reason we spend this time trying to backtrack this kind of stuff is if you know what it has done, you know what it can do. And so looking at this, it's probably that northern one there. So it definitely had some strong winds with it, and hopefully we dodged a bullet this time around. Okay. So with that in mind, we'll continue monitoring things behind the scenes. If anything changes, we're going to keep our live stream up on the app. We're going to keep the live stream up on WTVA. .com, on the Facebook, and we're going to send you back the regular programming. We'll have more updates, of course, tonight on WTVA 9 News at 10, and I believe WLOV Fox News at 9. If you have storm damage pictures to send in, you can do so at the weather@WTVA.com. Keep it here for the best coverage.